Hi, everyone. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 this week. And Ecclesiastes chapter 5 covers, one of the most contentious topics, or at least one of the most talked about topics in our culture right now: money. We want it. We want to get it. We want more. We want possessions, because in this country, we can get it if we just work hard enough. We'll see in Ecclesiastes chapter 5 that Solomon, the wealthiest person to ever live, lets us know that that isn't really worth it either. Let's get into it. Chapter 5 is entitled, More is Not Always Better. Solomon had more than anyone, so he should know. The main point of chapter 5: money and possessions aren't going to make you feel fulfilled. It seems like they would. It seems as if the more money and the more possessions we have, it would make us happier and it would give us a little bit of peace of mind. Solomon says that's just the opposite. It doesn't work that way. And so the key verse that we're going to look at is from verse 10. Anyone who loves money is never satisfied with money, and anyone who loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. Solomon is once again making an observation of this world. That doesn't mean no one is ever satisfied with what they have. Hopefully, we as Christians have a little bit of a contentment, a satisfaction, a happiness with what the Lord has given us. But in general, this is how life works. No one is satisfied with what they have. If they get a bigger paycheck, they're never satisfied with it for long. They just want more. If they have some possessions, it's nice, but then the next new thing comes along. Solomon saw that, way back at that time. It's almost 3,000 years ago now. What you need to know as you navigate this chapter: the first section is a little bit different. It talks about approaching God in prayer and in your vows. Solomon reminds us to remember whom you're talking to. He is the Almighty Lord, the creator of this universe, and we are finite, sinful human beings in this world. Treat him with a little bit of respect when you go and talk to him. And then after that, what else you need to know is Solomon gets into this wealth and these riches and the money. And he wants us to remember that, opposed to what we hear, our success is not based on the amount of your salary or your vehicles or your house or your position or anything else that you can get your hands on. And Solomon should know he truly had anything he ever wanted. That didn't make him successful. He found that out by the end of his life, and now he wants us to know. The last 3 verses of the chapter highlight contentment, satisfaction. He's mentioned that a few times before in the previous chapters. He comes back to it again. Make sure you highlight those verses as well. Solomon keeps hammering home this point. I have everything, but everything doesn't matter. Contentment, satisfaction, happiness with what the Lord is giving you right now does. And so this is what he settles on for the meaning of life in chapter 5. It's not getting as much as you can. That shouldn't be your pursuit. That should not be your goal. You got to rethink things and reprioritize, because the richest man who has ever lived says it is not worth it. Read chapter 5. Interesting chapter. It applies to your life. It applies certainly to our lives as Christians living in this particular country. And I want you to remember this in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. The Bible says that Solomon brought in over $1.5 billion in gold alone for every year he reigned. That's 40 years. He brought in a lot of other stuff too: silver, animals, spices. He was extensively rich. Over 40 years, that's over $60 billion just in gold. He's worth listening to when it comes to discussions about money. and what's worth it and what's not. He says hardly any that's worth it. Just be happy with what you have. On that note, have a great rest of your week. Please read Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and get back to me with any questions or comments you might have.